Okay, my friends, this is beyond my wildest expectations. I wrote a book about Velikovsky because I don't want him forgotten. He wrote a book in 1950 called Worlds in Collision, which explains how the Great Deluge happened. We were almost hit by Venus, which was a planet that just was given birth by Jupiter. This is what was written in the ancient texts all over the world, not just in one culture or another, everywhere. So Jupiter, the feared god Jupiter, gave birth to the fiery comet Venus. This is what it says. And that fiery comet approached Earth for 7 days, really literally cooked the Earth because it was apparently like 1,000 times brighter than the sun. It was so intense. And it almost hit us, really cooked everything, and killed all the giants and all the stuff that they talk about, the Great Flood. And the Great Flood happened because it compressed the oxygen and hydrogen in the air. It not only combusted things, but it also created the oxygen and hydrogen together is water, H2O. So water came from above and it came from the fountains of the earth underneath. It's all recorded. And the biggest creatures died. Now, the smaller creatures, though, did record all these things. And there were still some very, very big creatures. Now, here's Velikovsky talking. This is back in 1964. They assaulted him until the day he died, and now he's forgotten in 99% of everywhere. And I'm hoping I'm going to resurrect that. Now, this is it appears to be some Yiddish station, Jewish or Israeli or whatever, I don't know. But it's called Camera 3, 1964, and then whatever that stuff says. Now, listen to what he has to say, because he's just wrapped everything up right for me. This is just like a Christmas present. Wait till you see this. Listen.
At my book it was said 2 billion. By now it is already 9 billion years. But recently, it has become, it all changed. So many things were discovered, and one of them is the heat of Venus. And let me also say that 600 degree of 1959 was one of the reasons to send the Mariner probe to find that it is not so.
All right, let me just explain to you what Velikovsky said. He said Venus, being brand new in the solar system, would have to be very hot, and it would cool down. So it had to be hundreds and hundreds of degrees. They said, no, it's only about just a little more than the temperature of the Earth, because he was just totally wrong about everything. Now, so they sent Mariner probe to see what the temperature really was. And instead of just being 600 degrees, it was like 800 degrees. Now, he says, who can explain this? I can explain it. Now listen to what he has to say.
I remember in December of that year 62, when Mariner probe was still on, just past the date point, but there was not yet the final report. I heard a man, scientist from Jet Propulsion Lab, who, speaking before the AAA convention in Philadelphia, expressed his hope that it will be found the temperature much lower. What was found, it was still higher, not 600, but 800 degrees.
Well, there was another finding of Mariner, which has just in this past week been still further confirmed, which is the question of Venus's motion. The recent confirmation of the retrograde motion is even more puzzling, is it not, and even more embarrassing.
Oh, listen to this. This is so cool because it proves exactly what I'm saying. I can show you in diagrams. It's absolutely no question that it's the spin and the scrub through space. Listen.
To the conventional orthodox view.
Yes.
I see it's not embarrassing to your point of view.
No, not at all. Not
you
at
are
all.
more comfortable with it.
Not at all. I would say that the Mariner probe surpassed all my wildest dreams. It found first, I would say, confirmed the find made before that by Pioneer 5, that the space, interplanetary space, is magnetic.
All right, that's the particles coming from the sun and from every radiant source. It's magnetic particles.
Well, I was a target of much ridicule exactly because of this, that they invented forces that do not exist in the solar system.
See, they said he invented the force. No, it's there. They just refuse to acknowledge it. It's even till today. It's like there's nothing there. We're not scrubbing through anything. The Space Hubble, it works fine, no problem. There's nothing out there for it to interfere with the light coming. It's insanity.
Because I needed them to explain all these unusual events that took place in the sky, events that the Greek called theomachy, the battle of the gods.
I remember you saying one time that one description of your work might be to replace René Descartes back in the position he deserves in 17th century science. I believe you meant by this his theory of the tourbillon and the vortices as opposed to a Newtonian universe.
Yes, at
of
least
empty
to put
space.
him back into position of a rightful contender.
The same with you, Mr. Velikovsky. That's what I'm trying to do for you, buddy.
Of Newtonian theory, because very recently, actually a year before my book was published, in a book of philosopher Butterfield, I saw the sentence, in that great debate or contest, Descartes was a loser, because these worlds, these vortices that he described, these particles of matter or of ether that fills the universe,
Ether.
they are not there. Nobody found them. Nobody.
Well, I found them. I can show them. I've been showing them for years. And the same people that assaulted him have just turned their back on me. And the evidence, I don't care if I'm turning back on me. The evidence is what they're turning back on.
Discovered them. So it was an empty
Newtonian
universe in which the celestial bodies in complete peace and eventfully traveled for eons.
And the universe we see now is not that kind of place.
Not at all. But then again, Mariner found not only this, it found, of course, this heat. And there is no explanation for this heat.
Yes, there is an explanation for the heat. Listen to what he says. I'm thrilled that nobody knew this, and they still don't know it. I'm the only one saying it.
Would be after it was already found, there would be some explanation for it. The best it was done by Kuiper on assumptions that there is water vapors and carbon dioxide when it was thought 600. The
600
best
degrees.
he could do with on this optimal condition for greenhouse effect would be 170 Fahrenheit. But now for 800 degrees, there is no explanation at all. Actually, I have to ask you whether you know any astronomer who has offered any
explanation.
theory that was acceptable to the next astronomer.
Yes, I have offered the theory that there's nothing but particles, and as we scrub through them, our atmospheric particles, which is push to shove, creates heat. And our outer atmosphere is 2,700 degrees. That's why it's so hot out there. Same thing with the sun. The sun on the surface is only 10,000 degrees. Out at the corona is millions because we're scrubbing through all the particles of ether that he talked about. So, I have just explained it, and because Venus is going backwards, it's scrubbing its particles like it's not rolling down the road, which is the right-hand spin. It's the left-hand spin makes it scrub harder, so it's scrubbing against, like you're driving down the road, but your tires are going backwards. That's why it's so hot. So I have offered it, and yes, I have. I fully understand it. Now, academia does not change. The interviewer is asking Velikovsky if he took a different approach instead of talking about gods and all this kind of stuff and planets and everything that he really should have no right to be speaking of, astronomy. If he'd have talked about geology and things he could hold in his hands, they should have been more receptive. Listen to what he says.
A use of the past human material in an unusual, surprising way. What do you think would have happened if you had brought your other evidence first? If you had talked first about geology? If you had published Earth in Upheaval, which has a completely different kind of evidence in it? Do you think they would have been more receptive?
I would not know. Many people affirm this, that would have I started with geological and paleontological evidence, I would have probably not met the same stormy opposition.
Oh, no. You'd have met just the same thing. They would have turned their back on you exactly the same way.
But, and I understand, of course, that for astronomer to change his basic views on what he believes are mythology, old wives' tales, biblical story. You know, the Bible is a book that we are asked to swear on it, but we are asked also not to believe into it. And at least, well, you know, of course, that I am not a fundamentalist and didn't try in any way to prove the Bible right. But on the other hand, it happened to me to go even further than fundamentalists go, because when the Bible, and actually in so many places, in Psalms, in prophets, in Mosaic books, spoken about mountains that melt like wax, that the sea erupt, and other things, that they fundamental.
All right, I'm going to not go any further with this, but you should watch this. Velikovsky was totally destroyed, and I am going to show you why Venus spins backwards. All right, I can easily show you why Venus is spinning backwards. Let's assume this is Jupiter. All the celestial bodies spin to the right. It's called the right-hand rule. So if it's going that direction, it spins this way. Right-hand rule. Spins this way. All right. So we're going that way, it's spinning this way. Now, if it pushed out another ball out of here, which would be called Venus, which is said Jupiter, which this is Jupiter, spinning to the right, going that direction, gave birth to the fiery comet Venus. Now, it's spinning this way. So here we are. All of a sudden, Venus pops out. It's going this way. Venus is going to not spin this direction. It's going to spin backwards because it's being pushed by all the particles in front, pushing it back. So it's spinning in what direction? This way. That's reverse. This Jupiter's spinning this way. And this is going to roll backwards and spin to the left for a bit, and then it will take off into space, spinning backwards. That's what happened there. All right. My contention is that everything in space is filled with these particles of light. I mean, it's obvious if they're particles, and I've shown they are particles. Now, everything spins to the right-hand rule. And everybody, in addition to spinning to the right-hand rule, twists to the right-hand rule on their axis, except Venus. It goes backwards. I showed you why it goes backwards. Now, let's take another look at something. Why the heat grows. All right, this shows how unbelievably enormous the amount of particles that are spitting out into space. Those aren't just rays of nothing. Those are particles spitting out. And this is the axis of the sun. This is a solar eclipse. The sun is literally spinning in this direction, going that way. That's what creates this field, which is the polar field, and it creates these impact zones. It's because it's going this way. The atmosphere of it is crushing this way. This is the trailing. But when these spit out from the sun, they go so fast they leave. They don't come back in like they do at the Earth. The Earth primarily pulls its own field back into itself. Now, here's what happens around the Earth. The Earth, and of course the sun as well, has an impact zone out here. This is the sun's impact zone. It's called a corona. This is the Earth's impact zone. It's called the ionosphere. Ions mean these little negative particles. OH is a negative particle. It means it has an extra electron that wants to push. As we spin, we push against the outer atmosphere. If our atmosphere grows, the push gets harder and harder. That's what's causing global warming. It's causing turmoil in our atmosphere, something terrible. The sun has the same situation. The sun, and this is 2,700 degrees out here. Why is it so hot out there? They think that it's holding the air, the heat in from carbon. It's not that at all. Carbon dioxide is an expansion gas. Absolutely, it's not good. But it's not the carbon that's the problem. It's the expansion of the gases from solid materials turning into gaseous materials. They expand enormously. So instead of being here, we could be way out here now. And we're scrubbing like an unbelievable scrub. as we push through all of the gases that are in the atmosphere out here, solar wind, dust, solar particles, light, we're scrubbing. Same thing here. The sun is only 10,000 on the surface. You know how much it is out here where it scrubs? At the end of the corona? Millions. They have no explanation for either of these things. They talk about global warming from carbon dioxide. Out here they say, well, it's got something to do with fusion way deep in the core. We really don't know. They don't know because they don't understand everything is a dipole. Dipoles push to shove other dipoles. Shown it a million times. Velikovsky was right, and that's why Venus spins backwards, because it got ripped off of Jupiter in a reverse spinning motion. All right, I am going to bring Velikovsky back to life because he's just been forgotten. Now, he's talking about all of these things were just literally frozen in space during this destruction of the Earth. Now listen.
Tilting of the axis of the Earth and freezing them right there where they were found just a few years ago. One of the interesting questions that Velikovsky's work raises for the study of religion reopens the question which a lot of scholars are no longer too interested in, that is the origin of religion. There are various theories, but Velikovsky opens the question again as to the possible astral origin. Why did the ancients worship stars or planets that the average person can't pick out of the sky today? And yet, all of our ancient heritage that comes to us in terms of architecture, writing, and so on, they're actually obsessed with the idea of worshiping these stars, these dreaded planets. All mankind through the years have worshipped stars that we can't even pick out of the sky today. Now, why? Why were they so obsessed with them? Unless, in some way, these stars were threats to them, in some way impressed themselves upon ancient man.
The catastrophes described in ancient sources were traumatic experiences common to all mankind. Purged from conscious memory, these records are now interpreted as allegories, metaphors, and the trauma has been submerged in the unconscious.
You get laughed at now when you talk about these things.
Velikovsky calls this collective amnesia.
See that? East Coast of the United States.
A book like Old Testament is read maybe more than any other book through the centuries. It's translated to all languages. And you read there about sea and unchanging places, about mountain moving into the sea, mountain being overturned, mountain melting like wax. And you think that this is metaphors. And so it is the phenomenon that Freud stressed and stressed again of the role of traumatic experience on the life of an individual.
All right, I'm not going to continue any further right now. We're going to go through everything that he had to say. Now, some things I have found out that he wasn't correct about. He didn't have the information I have now. He didn't have Google Earth. I can see all these things on the Earth. There's no hidden secrets anymore. The problem is that academia has not changed their ways.